FNAF fangames have come a long way. Many developers started their journeys on Scratch, where making FNAF fangames will get you publicly executed by the moderation team. Thankfully nobody cares and people make games anyway. There's a lot of very good games that are completely unknown to the larger FNAF community, which is why I like covering them in these kinds of videos. Today I want to go through each notable FNAF Scratch game from 2014 that I and other people could find, and discover which one is the best of its time. I'll be looking through the garbage and the maybe good. We'll find out. Here are all the contestants. I'll just speed through any games that aren't worth talking about. Five Nights at Freddy's Scratch Edition is the first FNAF Scratch game ever made, and is actually the second FNAF fan game ever published, second to Animatronics Awakened on Roblox. For that measure, you might expect this game to be bad, but it's actually not terrible. It's got tons of updates, a custom night, 2 game modes, but the game modes are Power, where you survive with a limited amount of power, and Survive, where you have infinite power. The thing is, you could just keep both doors closed in Survive mode. There's also only one night, and the game looks like this. At least the gameplay is okay. It's simple, but it works. Just watch the cameras, flash the lights, and close doors and characters. The game isn't the best, but it's a solid enough start for the genre. By the way, if you know a thing or two about FNAF Scratch, respond to the forum attached in the GameJolt post in the description to cast your vote for the FNAF Scratch Awards. It also has a link to the FNAF Scratch Museum, which is a huge list of culturally significant or good FNAF fan games made in Scratch and TurboWarp, which I created and other people helped me out. So check that out and make sure to read the rules of the forum. Thank you. Now it's time to check out the Lizzie Lizard games. The first game was released on the same day as Five Nights at Freddy's Scratch Edition, but later on in the day, so it's the second FNAF Scratch game ever made. I played every Lizzie Lizards game, from the original beta to Five Nights at Lizzie's 1, 2, and 3, and I can confidently say they're pretty bad. Five Nights at Lizzie's 2 is by far the best, with multiple new characters and some pretty good camera art for the time, but some characters are impossibly difficult. The series has charm for sure, but they don't have a lot to talk about aside from that. Let's move on to the iconic One Night at Pico's, boasting nearly 35,000 views. Five Nights at Pico's is a game that looks pretty good for its time, especially with some cameras looking pretty good for even 2016 standards. But the animatronics get a little bit too quirky at night. They're all active starting on night 1, but they just move randomly back and forth between rooms, so the likelihood that they'll reach your office even on night 5 is pretty slim. Each character works the same, so just close the door, and Nano acts as Foxy character. Power drain is super weird in this game, and it's not worth it at all to use the cams on night 5 because you can't click on anything while the static is active, and boy does it happen a lot. Overall it's good for its time and definitely better than the Lizzie series. I would even say it's better than Five Nights at Freddy's Scratch Edition overall. So I would say this is the best FNAF Scratch game so far. Let's see if this one's better. Say hello to Bill. Seven Nights at Bill's is the origin of the legendary kind of Seven Nights at Taigi series, which has 3 games in this year alone. This game has a pretty unique art style, especially compared to what we've seen so far. It mixes vector art with pre-rendered 3D art and some kind of photo bashing, which I can really appreciate. The office has this cool scrolling effect to change between the top and bottom entrances. The nights go by super fast, but they don't even transition to the next night, it just skips to it immediately. You can just sit here and wait for Bill to show up instead of using the cameras. Also, if you die, your progress gets completely wiped. So yeah, it hooked me in with its visuals, but the gameplay is pretty buns. Can't say this beats Five Nights at Pico's, but it isn't that bad for 2014. Now this game is where the Taigi series really begins. Visual style is better, with more cameras, with 3D models, more characters, and an office probably from Gmod, but the gameplay is confusing. You have a lot more cameras, you have a door, and there's a radar instead of lights. Radar is not to be relied upon because it got me killed multiple times for saying no one was there, but what you have to do is make sure no one is in their attack phase on a camera outside the office. The game is very punishing and frankly hard on the ears. There's also a custom night, I guess. Moving on to Taigi's 2, we start with some awesome deep lore. The game has way more cameras and characters, and is better in terms of mechanics, but it's still confusing and has even less original cameras. Most of these are just random photos. Overall, the game suffers from the same sorts of issues. Too punishing and confusing. It doesn't tell you how characters work. Did you know that this fish can kill you? Yep, you probably wouldn't know unless you died to it. Anyways, Taiki 3. This game has 30 cameras, an army of animatronics, and somehow 2 mechanics. Flash characters when they get to the office, and wind the music box. Visuals are much better than the first and second game, and it is a neat idea to have every character dogpile the office with the flash mechanic to ward them off in each entrance, but they give you no time to react, and it's just not a ton of fun, in my opinion. So those are all the Taiki games. Overall cool for the time, but not very good to play in this day and age. Picos is still on top for now. Now it's time for 1 week of Scratchies. This game has the best looking office so far. It even has decent scrolling. Cameras are drawn pretty well, although there are only a few cameras here and 2 are the same camera but flipped. Fortunately, the gameplay has big problems. For one, the power can be bugged, so you're always draining 3 bars, and characters can just drop off the stage and immediately teleport to your office, even on the first night. From there, they can just choose to stay there for a very long time. They can also jam the doors when they're about to kill you, just like in FNAF 1. So overall, the game is pretty unfair and expects too much out of the player. So yeah, another swing and a miss unfortunately. Can Five Nights at Sam's Project 2 take over Five Nights at Pico's spot at number 1? Well, at least it has a style I haven't seen before. It's kind of like pixel art, it has Easter eggs, and there's only 2 nights. Quick, 3 nights at Sugar's, save us! Shit. There's just one game that could possibly overtake Pico's, the Happy Mountain Bakery. The Happy Mountain Bakery is the most recent addition to the FNAF Scratch Museum, and boy I'm glad I found it. Look at this. This was made in 2014 by a really talented artist. The game opens up to an easy and hard mode. Like most of these games, it actually gives you instructions. The game plays pretty much like FNAF 1, although it has random night links and randomized power drain. I'm frankly not a fan of that. It's very punishing even for easy mode, but it probably is doable, as long as you just don't use much of the cameras really. They're not that useful, and animatronics can just kill you for looking at them in the hallway corner and pull the cans down for some reason. Like I said, the power train is brutal. The game's theming is very fun, especially when it comes to getting a power outage. All the characters and the cameras are great, although just like most games here, the office totally blows. It's empty. With all that said, is this better than the legendary Five Nights at Pico's? Yes, for sure. I wish the game was more rounded around the edges, especially when it comes to the randomization in there. It's really difficult, maybe even close to impossible, but even so I think it's better than Five Nights at Pico's. Second place obviously goes to Five Nights at Pico's, and Five Nights at Freddy's Scratch Edition gets 3rd place. 4th place is a toss-up between Five Nights at Bill's, 7 Nights at Taiki's 3, and Five Nights at Lizzie's 2, but I'm thinking I'll give it to 7 Nights at Taiki's 3 for its creativity. With that said, make sure to respond to the forum in the description if you know a thing or two about FNAF Scratch. You can check out the FNAF Scratch Museum, and play my Bigfoot FNAF fan game that came out recently, and play Puppet Theater. I'll link all of those. Thank you all so much for the support on the last video, more to come, and see ya.